Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to finish the model that I've started quite a long time ago at this point. And to do that I'm going to add the final details on the costumes. And as you can see, if I switch to Matcap Gray and go to my poly group, inside, see, it might be difficult to see, but the inside, it's a different polygroup compared to the outside. So I'm gonna use this to do my selections, and I'm gonna actually use this information to create some UV. So with UV Master, I'm just going to check polygroups and click Unwrap. So ZBrush is going to go through my polygroups in this subtool, and it's going to generate the UVs based on the polygroups themselves. So if I scroll down and click on Morph UV, as you can see, this is the expanded version of those UVs. So that's the way that ZBrush opened them up. Those lines are the borders. As you can see, they go back in place nicely. So now that I have UVs, I go back to my highest subdivision mesh, which is about 4.5 million points, and I scroll. I'm gonna click on Store Morph Target. I already had one, but I'm gonna click a new one just in case. It's always a good idea to have a morph target when you're happy with the mesh you have and you're about to do some more modifications. Now, from the layers, I'm going to click on plus and I'm going to create a new layer. And this way, if I'm not happy with it, I can go back and change it later. And now with Noisemaker, I'm going to click on Alpha on off, and I'm going to select this texture that I downloaded from the net, and then I'm going to click UV because I want to use the UVs. I'm going to set the mix basic noise to 0, and I'm going to scale it down because the alpha is too big, and increase and decrease the strength because I want the black to be negative. So something like that, maybe 0.05 might be a little bit too big, 0.03, and strength goes minus 0.02 or something like that for now. So if you click OK, ZBrush is gonna show you a preview of what is gonna look like with this pattern applied. This is not actually changing the mesh yet. This is just a preview. For example, if I mask some areas, you can see it does it removing it, and if I invert the mask, it's doing it only in the area that it's unselected. So with this purpose here, I'm actually gonna go and define exactly the area with a mask where I want the pattern to be applied. So just quickly doing some masking by following the seams here of the costume. I don't have to be super precise, but try to do kind of lines as straight as I can. The problem with these seams that goes inside like that is that the brush stroke kind of touches both sides, so I have to scale down the brush size to 1, which is the smallest possible, and do those tiny gaps there, try to fill up nicely. And then I do some selection just to cover the area there, and I'm checking where the other parts are going to fall over, what parts is hidden, what parts is it's not. So looks like it's gonna be there, something voxel part here can be masked. And let's see, let's do a preview. So if I click on noise, that's a preview on where the area is gonna go, and it looks good. Maybe I would like to have some separation though. So let's see. Well, first of all, I think I'm gonna increase a little bit the size of this, because don't forget that this is meant to be 3D printed. So all those tiny details, if they are too weak, they won't show up in the print. So I'm gonna increase a little bit the strength and make it a little bit bigger. This should be enough, depending obviously on the quality of the printer you're gonna use. And I think I'm also gonna go and mask. I think I'm gonna mask out this part here. Let's see. Yeah. So the part on the top, I think it looks better. Let's see. Yeah, I prefer it. I prefer it with just the top panel with the with that. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna refine a little bit the mask there. It's not super necessary because that area is covered, but and obviously I need to do the same on the other side. So now I'm going to do some masking on the other side as well. Same process basically, just going through and help me with some lazy mouse helps when you have to do like the seams and the tiny lines like that. Just set some lazy mouse to help you do a little bit better strokes, have a little bit cleaner seam there, and refine a little bit of this part here like that, and that looks good. And also I want the back panel there to have the same pattern, so I'm gonna go like that and do the same, a little bit of refining there, and like that, these tiny seams, tiny gaps in there, and clean it up a little bit. Don't need to be super precise, but alright, let's see how it looks. And I think it looks pretty good. Let me check with the whole model. I think, yeah, it looks pretty good. So yeah, that's cool. So this mask that took quite some time to be drawn, I would like to keep it. So the way that you save the mask in ZBrush is, since I have UVs, I'm going to create a texture map. I want to set the size for like 4K or for this one. You go to texture map and click create, and then new from masking. So what ZBrush will do will convert your masking into a texture, into a black and white texture like that. So then you can clone the texture and save it. So from texture, click export. I'm gonna call this mask 01, and from, I don't need it from here, from the alpha, to recall it, from the alpha panel, you click import and open it up. And now that you have it in the alpha, you go into masking and click mask by alpha, and here's your mask back. So that's a cool way that you can store your masks. And now if I click apply to mesh, ZBrush is going to actually transfer that pattern to the geometry. It seems that it's a little bit weak, So I'm gonna do it one more time. Apply to mesh. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks better. And maybe to remove those there are some imperfection in there because of the geometry. So from the deformation panel, I'm just gonna smooth a couple of times. 1, 2, yeah, that looks better. Maybe one more to smooth out the details. Yeah, looks pretty good. So I like that. So if I unhide the rest, that's how it looks. And because I have a layer, I can stop recording, and if I see, I can hide it and bring it back anytime I want. I'm just gonna rename this pattern. Okay, so I remember what it is, and yeah, that looks pretty good. So I think the next thing I'm gonna do is the cape at this point. So here I am back in Marvelous Designer. If you remember, this is the last project that we did in a previous video. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to import a decimated version. I didn't record, it's the same process as last time. Decimated version of my pose model, and just for clarity, I'm just gonna make it darker so it's a bit easier to see compared to the cape. And those pins that I have there, well, first of all, particle distance, I'm going to set it to 20 for now, because otherwise it's going to be too heavy. I need to experiment a little bit. So if I simulate, there it is, it falls like there. There are 2 pins at the top that keep the cape in place. So I'm gonna need to move these pins into their new location, which is gonna be one, it's kind of there, and let's see, and I'm having some trouble here with my mouse and the zoom. Okay, so I'm gonna move that one there, and this one is gonna go about there. I don't need to be super precise, but this is a bit tricky to select because it passes through the mesh, so the mouse selects the avatar instead of the geometry of the cape, but whatever. So let's see if I can pick this up. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, and place it right there. So now let's see what we get if we maybe a little bit slightly down like that. Okay, and let's see if I simulate what we get. Not much at the moment because there's no wind. So let's bring the wind back. So from the display panel, click on Show Wind Controller right there, and there it is. I'm gonna switch it from spherical to planar, and I'm going to activate it. Just click on and simulate, and it's moving, but the problem is that when I saved the project last time, the cape was solidified, so I need to click on unsolidify first to make it behave like you should. Yeah, so let's see, to try adjust the wind direction a little bit, and see what I can do to improve. First of all, I want a little bit more detail, so I'm gonna switch to 15. Remember, the smallest the particle distance will be, the more detailed the cape will be. And then, like I did last time, I'm gonna click on Track on Avatar, and I'm gonna pin this 2.1 here on this shoulder, and another one here on the other shoulder to keep these 2 points in there. I don't want that. I don't want the cape to move away from those points. And let's turn on the wind again, and let's play around a little bit with the settings, maybe a little bit more turbulence, I don't know, and see what happens. Basically, it's about experimenting, changing the parameters until you're happy with the simulation, and when you're happy with the pose, and keep your hand on the spacebar to pose it like I did this time. And I like this pose here, and the cape is fairly detailed, and the shape is pretty good, it's pretty dynamic. So I think I'm gonna go with this one, and I'm gonna click on solidify just in case. Yeah, this is pretty good. I can see there's plenty of folds there, so looks nice. So I'm gonna go to File and Export. Well, first I'm gonna save the project. I'm gonna call this cape underscore pose. All right, and from export, I'm gonna click OBJ, and I'm gonna call this again cape pose.obj. Now from the option, I don't want the avatar. I want single object. I want it to be welded, and I want a thin unified UVs, centimeters, and okay, everything should be fine. So let's move back to ZBrush. All right. Now from here, I'm just gonna append something. Maybe this one. Select it and then import and select my cape pose obj. So here it is. So first thing, let me so I don't see the other side because the display is set to only one side. If I smooth it out, it looks like that. Okay, so I'm just checking if what kind of adjustment I'm gonna have to do. So first of all, I want the cape to be under the collar. That's something that I decided in my design. So I'm gonna select the collar there and the dress, and I'm just gonna use the move brush and push him inside there. I'm gonna move it around a little bit and start pushing it inside, so like that. I want it nice and tucked into the collar part there, like so. All right, and then I can just add some more folds. What I'm gonna do, let's see, so I'm trying a little bit with the move standard, but I think I'm gonna go and use my trusted fold brush by Selvi. First I'm gonna adjust a little bit here, just to get a little bit better shape, and that looks good. So from the I'm gonna import I'll save. Well, first of all, I'm gonna save this, and from the brush panel, actually before doing that, I'm gonna extrude it so I get the thickness. So with Z modeler, I'm just gonna hit spacebar, and so from here I'm gonna select extrude, and I want all polygons. Okay, and I'm just gonna click and drag like that, click and drag inside a little bit, something like this. And because I pushed inside instead of outside, I have to flip the normals. So from the display, I'm gonna click flip, and here it is. And now I can smooth it out. You can see nice polygroups generated automatically there. And if I smooth it out, if I subdivide it, I get this nice, really nice soft corner there, which is pretty good. And now I'm gonna load my Selvi Folds brush. You can search online Selvi brushes. They're really good for making folds. They're available for free. And I'm just gonna add some fold here, a little bit of folding here and there, just to get a little bit more detail in the part that I tucked under the color. So click and drag to add some new folds. Increase a little bit here. One there. And then smooth. And just click and drag and then smooth it out, just to add that tiny detail there. Need to be careful to not go too deep, otherwise it's gonna pass through. Just add some tiny folds here and there. Maybe here as well. I just want them close to the collar. I don't need them to propagate too far. Just a little bit like that, something like that, and maybe a little bit on the other side as well, like so, and a little bit there, and smooth it out. A bit more there, and something like that, just to have something a little bit more detail in that area. Okay, and smooth it out. So alright, so the problem now, you might notice that there are some, because the topology of the cape that came from Marvelous Designer wasn't great. What's happening now is that the surface of the cape is not very smooth. I don't know if you can notice, but there are like pinches all over the place in the geometry, and you can smooth as much as you want. You're not gonna get rid of it. You can try polish, like in this case. They're not gonna go away. And that's just because the way that the topology was generated in Marvelous Designer. So the back actually is not too bad, but you can see from here, this is the topology. So you have these pinches, and it's very dirty overall. So what you can do here, if you scroll to the geometry tab, just click on Z Remesher. There it is. Click on Z Remesher, and in a few seconds ZBrush will regenerate the mesh like that, much better. And now if I subdivide this one, it gets nice and smooth. All those nasty pinches in the geometry are gone, so much cleaner now. So I recommend to do this when you deal with geometry that it's imported from Marvelous Designer. Alright, so now that the cape is done, last thing to do is to add some color. I'm just gonna add some color for the sake of the preview here in ZBrush. This is gonna be 3D printed, so color is irrelevant, but I will want to do a few renders of this, so I need to add color from here. I'm gonna poly paint some color here, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just gonna be some flat color based on the that drawing that I show up before. That was the original concept. So let's see. What I'm gonna do here, I'm going to apply. I'm gonna use the skin shade for material, which is the one that I actually like the most. And I've created a new layer, but it seems that ZBrush cannot use the filling options. If you go to color fill object, it's not gonna work, and the reason is because for some reason when you have a layer that it's active, that option doesn't work. So if I need to delete that layer in order to be able to do that. So delete the layer, and now I can fill the object with the color. And I'm gonna change some bluish, slightly purple color, like this maybe. Obviously this is not gonna be the final color. I'm just experimenting a little bit here, but actually now it's a good time to bring back that alpha that we saved earlier. So if I do the same as before, I'm gonna go and click on mask by alpha. It's gonna bring back that mask that I've made before. And now if I select black and I'm gonna fill object with the mask, it's gonna fill only in that tiny spaces. So if I remove the mask, you get the black there with the details. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but and then I'm gonna do some more masking just to get this area on the back of the costume where the color is gonna go. I'm just gonna clean this up real quick like that, and do the front part, and I want black as well. And I'm just gonna follow the contours like so, and just going with the mask. I could also use the paint directly instead of the mask, but at this stage I'm going with what I have here, so I decided to use with the mask instead. It's just a preference. You can just paint directly, and I think I'm gonna do that later, but for now I'm just going with the mask like so. Just refine the borders a little bit. You can switch to the flat color material to see a little bit better, because sometimes with the shading active it's not that easy to see the masking properly. Let's select and fill the object. As you can see there, I forgot some of the borders there, so I'm just gonna color them manually. And yeah, and here I'm just gonna use the color instead of the mask. I'm just gonna go and color that part with a little bit of lazy mouse activated, and I don't really need that part because it's gonna be hidden. And now I'm just gonna select the other objects and fill them. So, and this part here also I want it to be black, so I'm gonna have to do that as well. Up to there basically. It's gonna be black. And that area as well. Let me clean up their tiny parts there. And a little bit of cleaning there. Yeah, she looks good. I think she looks pretty good. Again, the details are a little bit difficult to see, but that's just because it's ZBrush. Once I will do the rendering, those details will look much better. Now for the golden part, I think I'm just trying to apply some color, some flat color there, but what I think I'm gonna end up doing is just I'm just gonna assign the gold shader that ZBrush has. Yeah, I mean, she looks those parts there looks pretty cool. Actually, even with gold hair, she looks pretty good. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna make what color I'm gonna make her hair, but for now I'm just testing out things. And with mRGB selected, I'm gonna click Fill Object, so the borders there are gonna be filled with that shader. And I'm gonna do the same for the other golden parts. So there is this part here on the costume, on the corset of the costume. So again, Fill Object, and looks good. And then there is one more on the legs, those arches, those rings that she has on the legs, these as well. I'm gonna make them gold and something like that. Okay, and yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna continue just filling the other objects and then making selection like this, assign the color, there you go, fill object, and then here I'm gonna paint as well along the side there. Don't need to be super precise, but I'm gonna paint along here, fill that, cleaning up a little bit where I made a few mistakes here and there, and that looks good. And the other side is a little bit tricky, the other leg, because it's bent. So to see better the part that it's inside, I'm just gonna select isolate selection, and I'm gonna, under the visibility tab, I'm gonna click grow, just to grow these the geometry, and I'll be able to paint there a little bit easier and fill in the gaps like that, like so, and finish up with that. And she looks pretty good. Now for the hair, for now I'm gonna make her hair red. I haven't decided what the finished color is gonna be, but for now, redhead it is. And the skin, trying out a few materials, but I'm just gonna put some color on top like that, and that's pretty much it. And the cape is gonna be white for now. I'm gonna do some preview render test with the soft shadows. And the eyes, I'm gonna assign some toy plastic material, so they are nice and shiny. And one last thing that I can do, if you go to preference, if you go to render, under the where is it, under the render properties, if you activate wax preview and then go to select whatever material you want the wax to be activated. You increase the strength and something like 50. As you can see, it added this waxy effect on it, and maybe it's a bit too strong. Let's go to 30%, something like that, just to get a little bit better rendering with some softer material there. And let's see how it looks. Maybe for the cape I'm gonna use, let me select the cape instead of the skin shader. Maybe I'm gonna use, no, this one is too dark. I'm gonna use maybe the madcap white fill object. Yeah, this one looks better. So yeah, that's pretty much it actually for this video. What's left to do, it's to separate all the pieces and make it ready for the 3D print, but I'm gonna make a separate video for that. And yeah, this is the final result of the model. I think she looks pretty good. She's gonna look better in the rendering that I will do in Octane Render, but for now, just to have some coloring preview in ZBrush, I think this is enough. Again, I don't know what kind of a color scheme I will go in the end, but I just assigned this because they are similar to the original concept. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching the full video. If you want, you can support me on Patreon, subscribe to my channel, and make sure to watch my latest video and other videos in my playlist. See you the next time.